Hi ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Legendary Banner predictions for November 2018 of Fire Emblem Heroes. I'm going to walk into this one. At first impression, just tell you guys this is going to be the most difficult one I ever do because it is honestly not that predictable compared to some of the previous ones we've had. So I would not be surprised if I completely miss the mark here. There are a lot of patterns that have changed. We have confirmed 4 legendary heroes that are coming up on this legendary banner, and there's just a lot of imbalance in the amount of heroes that each color has, so it makes it really difficult to think about this in a more clear way than some of the previous legendary banners. And I'm just going to assume it's because of 3.0 and whatever new things they have in store for us that's related to that. So I call this one the mystery banner of 2018, if anything. Nonetheless, that'll make it more exciting for us. So with an open mind, I'll do my best, and feel free to let me know in the comments below what you think will happen. Guys in Twitch, feel free to say hello. YouTubers as well, leave your comment to join the community. Thank you so much for sharing the love. Anyways, let's jump into it. I'm gonna go over my rules, patterns, and what I do see that consistently happens between every banner. These feel like they break apart every time, but nonetheless, there are still some things that still work. So, one of my previous rules, and you'll see right away, is I haven't seen 2 characters of an original debut banner show up on a legend banner since like Daedra and Ira, and that wasn't really the same banner anyways, but we finally had it between Elysian Travers Olivia and Sumia, so they happen to show up on the same legendary banner, which was a little bit odd to me. It does give you more value. It reinforces the fact that you shouldn't summon on new banners because, you know, then these units just show up, and if you have tons of orbs, you're gonna get better value for 5 stars for, you know, pulling like a red and blue should you have gone for that here, and then you probably would have gone both. This tends to happen with me a lot. In my experience, I've already picked up every single character from the World of Thrashia's original banners. That was like Leaf, Rhine, Swordheart, Thunderhead, Olwen, and Nana. I've had all 4, and I didn't pull for that banner, but now I have them all. So it's like, yeah, you know, it really does, patience does pay off, and legendary banners do have a lot of value. We're pulling on seasonals where you get those pity breakers. Definitely. Okay, so also a real odd thing, maybe it's not too odd. Roy hasn't shown up at all. Brave Roy, I think they forgot about him. It was like a mistake, I guess. You know, just like an alt for Roy. What is that guy? So yeah, we didn't get Roy, but we also didn't get a CYL hero, which was a little odd to me as well. So they didn't put like Ike again or Lucina or Lynn again. They just literally didn't put Roy here, which would have made sense to me. So no CYL hero, not guaranteed every banner, even though it seemed like that was happening recently. And then we have Erika, which should have probably came with bad, you know, red options, but you know what, I think it was intentional that she did show up with Olivia and Tana, because Erika may not be as, like, people may not want to pull for her the same way they may have for some of the previous legendary heroes. Like take Lucina for example, a very popular, you know, CYL pick, right? And she's up there, so they realize they put somebody like Azura there. They put, you know, Micaiah, I think, and they're like, you know, people will pull for Lucina because she's really good. Not only as a hero, brings, you know, a totally new class weapon type, which is Blue Bow. Future Vision was amazing, really popular character, and boom, there you go. Erika's popular, don't get me wrong, but she wasn't a CYL winner. So they're like, okay, we got to push red a little bit, and it's a red cav horse, which wasn't really that appealing anyways. And then you had, obviously, other things too. You know, like, Ryoma initially came out with Sigurd and Young Tiki, and that wasn't really working out either. Like, I guess Ryoma, again, super popular because Fates and Awakening and all that. So, yeah. If I missed something here, I think, actually, I may have mixed up, like, Legendary Tiki coming with Micaiah. You know, like, that was the poor choice there. Again, Tiki being really popular in Japan. So, those are a little bit of an oddities. I wanted to just point them out. And also some of the new rules, which I mentioned from the previous legendary banner predictions, that's not the case. So one CYL hero didn't happen in the previous one, so I'm not going to assume that they always do. I think they will frequently show up on legendary banners and repeat because they sell well, but I don't think they have to show up on every legendary banner. So we're going to remove that, and even it showing up with poor fodder is just how it's going to be. Anyways, at this point there's been a fair amount of duplicates here and there. Brave heroes, colorless, Sigurd, Micaiah. I think Innes is at like 3 times he's shown up now, which is insane. I don't know why. It's probably because of his weapon refine was where he made his 3rd chance, or maybe he sold well on one of them. I don't know. Innes showing up as many times as he did made no sense. Jenny was not a good pull from the previous one either, because you should just be waiting for Brave Veronica to show up on a legendary banner. Yeah, anyone who's waiting for Mist, I suggest you quit by now. We have 4 legendary heroes on all banners, and this is a little bit interesting because this one has all 4 confirmed. So that means we either get a completely new legendary hero or we don't. And that new legendary hero is going to share with the ones that are confirmed. We'll get into that in a moment. Units that are too recent still don't show up on these legendary banners, so if you're expecting maybe somebody like Loki to show up on this legendary banner, you'll have to wait a bit. Seasonals haven't doubled up, actually, so this is still a consistent thing that we see. I don't expect 2 seasonals to show up on one specific color. They used to do this when there were 4 seasonals, but now they've reduced it down to 3 seasonals per legendary banner, so no. This has changed, so they have doubled up, and it was just this recent one with Olivia and Sumia being there, but I'm going to keep this rule here and assume they don't do it again, and that was just a coincidence for that particular banner. If they do it again, then I know this doesn't really hold with how they're doing it. And that pretty much covers it. One other thing I want to really think about still is that they do try to balance the colors. If you look at red again, it was pretty much like Tana being magical damage, Olivia being a dancer, and then you had cavalry physical damage in Erika. This kind of applied to a lot of other things too. So for the most part, if you had like Grima, then you had Innes, bow user, and Jenny as a healer. So they kind of try to balance out the colors, I feel. So first thing I want to talk about, and this is going to be going forward, I'm not going to try to predict a legendary hero anymore. I don't think there's any clear pattern with how they decide when to release these legendary heroes. There probably is internally, maybe from a business standpoint, but there isn't like a connection between the chapters or paralogs or something like that. There's no real pattern there. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to list out all the legendary heroes that I think may happen because of their importance to the Fire Emblem universe. So here we go. They may not all show up, and that's the funny part. So Elwood, Seliph, Sigurd, Leaf, Xander, Azura, Corrin, Micaiah, Celica, Chrom, and Roy. These are all either protagonists or very important characters in the Fire Emblem universe. Some of them, like Xander, is a good counterpart to Legendary Ryoma. Corrin is a lord who still hasn't shown up as a legendary hero, which is kind of surprising to me, although we did just get 2 alts of Corrin, so I don't expect the legendary Corrin to just show up now. Azura might make sense to it, I guess, because everybody's wearing an Azura costume, so maybe this would be the time to show off a legendary Azura, maybe. I would just prefer a weapon refine on the original Azura personally. Then you got Elwood, who got ignored because both Lyn and Hector got their legendary alts. Seliph and Sigurd and Leaf. Thrashia still hasn't got any sort of attention, and neither has Alm and Celica, which is strange to me, so maybe they're leaving the best for last. And yeah, that pretty much leaves Micaiah, Chrom, Roy. Micaiah seems like a good counterpart to Ike. Chrom, although he has tons of alts, seems like a pretty decent thing to also consider since there's already Grima and Lucine on here. Also Roy, well, just like Brave Roy, it seems like they forgot he exists. Anyways, let's jump into this. So first of all, our legendary heroes, the first one on red is going to be Legendary Ryoma, as you guys see on the left there. Legendary Ryoma is an interesting choice for a legendary hero. I don't think he's worth pulling even to today's standards, even as awesome as like flyers are in the metagame. The thing with Ryoma is he gives like no, he's like a distant counter red, and honestly for a flyer you're probably just better off using Grima in colorless, buffing up Grima and covering pretty much the whole weapon triangle, whereas Ryoma doesn't really have good defense or res, so he's not really that good at using his distant counter weapon. You pretty much swap out his weapon, so Ryoma's kind of like lackluster. And due to this, if I was to place a legendary hero somewhere, a new one, it would probably be in the red to make red more appealing, but let's assume that doesn't happen. And let's move on to what I think is more likely to be the case for other heroes showing up. So, this may come off as a shock to some, but I do think B. Celica is going to show off as the first CYL2 hero here. They're going to completely ignore Roy and make it a little bit more appetizing, because Ryoma is not so great as a pull. I don't think most people will be pulling for him at this point, but Celica would be really good. And hear me out on this. So Celica's most defining feature, besides being an oversaturated red sword, is the fact that she comes with Deathblow 4. And Deathblow 4 hasn't shown up since CYL2 happened, but if I'm going to look ahead and consider 3.0, if they do introduce something, a way to acquire those skills, Deathblow 4 or Fort Defense Res, the mix skill, if they give us a way to acquire these skills, and if you even consider something like Heroic Grails also that recently happened, where there's more skill availability due to that, as maybe their last chance to kind of throw Deathblow 4 at our faces and be like, hey, Legendary Banner, Celica, Deathblow 4, you need this, right? Because a lot of units you need it to score well in Arena, and it's also a pretty good skill. So last kind of chance they have to give us Deathblow 4 before making it an option to maybe refine into it or learn it for heroes, upgrade Deathblow 3 into 4, maybe some materials are needed to do that. Whatever the case, I think B. Celica is definitely my logic as to why that would happen. And this was honestly my hardest pick. And this is honestly why I think a third Legendary hero is more likely to happen. Like a second one here in red, because I don't think Hoshiden Makaya, I don't think Flora or SY Tiki will show up just yet. I think it's too early for them. And then when you look at some of the old 5-star exclusives that haven't shown up, you pretty much narrow it down to, and remember the balance between physical and magical damage. Katarina's a magical damage dealer, and then you have like Alm, Eldigan, Gray, Carol, Leo, Lucina, Luke, Lynn, Saber, and Alincia. So between Leo and Katarina, I think Leo might be a little bit more popular, but because of the weapon refine in Katarina and her just probably being one of the more popular characters, especially in Japan, for that game, I think Katarina is a probable choice, but I'm not super confident in it. If anything, like I said, I think it most likely will be a red Legendary hero that shows up today. We shall see, nonetheless. So moving on, we got with blue, Legendary Lucina confirmed. So she's finally back. Hopefully she does end up being... She ends up sharing with something much better, but I know because of our seasonals not really overlapping and red with Summer Young Tiki maybe not showing up yet with Ryoma, that the first one to likely come here is going to be S. Cordelia. This one is likely to be confirmed. So I've talked about S. Cordelia before, and the thing with S. Cordelia is she does come with pretty decent fodder that people may overlook, which is Dull Clothes and her Lance. Her as a unit herself isn't too great. She's just a more stat-inflated Oscar. If you guys have looked at my initial analysis for Summer Cordelia, she's just slightly better than Oscar in terms of most stats. Especially since she's 5-star exclusive and a seasonal, it's much harder to merge up a good Cordelia, whereas with Oscar you can merge them up and really have comparable stats. But more importantly, Dull Clothes and her Lance is what really does set her apart as good fodder, because Dull Clothes is really useful in a meta where rally pluses are more common, and buffs in general, maybe like a Blade Tome, not a Blade Tome, but Blade Sword like Levitine, you know, she can counter that, or you can give it to a unit who may counter that pretty well. She probably won't have too much trouble with Levitine, but definitely giving that as a fodder skill is good. The weapon itself is decent to give yourself all stats against anyone else. Like, it's a good alternative option to something like Slaying Lance. So Cordelia's pretty good. And finally, again, and this is why I wanted to mention that it's probably going to be a Legendary hero, not only in red, but likely blue, because if you look at our options again for blue, Camilla could come instead of Cordelia, but I think Cordelia will come first. And Ryoma, B. Hector, and Quan, I think, and Ophelia are too early to happen yet. They may swap out something like Celica for B. Hector, but the thing is there would be no magical damage to balance out the blue choice here, which is why I've chosen Delthea, but An alternative to that, and maybe likely to happen because there's no dancers here yet, could be Ninian. And I'm talking about the original Ninian, not Bridal Ninian, of course. So that's a possibility that I want to consider. Magical damage. Lind also could be a thing here as well, but Delthea could definitely come in as kind of like the surprise factor, and maybe they'll do some weapon refines in 3.0, and she could be one of the candidates for that. Because a lot of Shadows of Valencia units have gotten really good weapon refines. If we look at Celica, Alm, and now even Saber, you know, these guys do get a lot of attention, at least in the weapon refine department. So you never know what could happen with Delthea. She's also quite popular for that game. So that's pretty cool. Finally, we got ourselves Gunthra. So Gunthra's confirmed, but at this point she's probably not as appealing as some of the other characters. I want to mention that Gunthra herself is kind of increased in value a little bit due to ether raids being important. Chilling Seal is a great preference skill. If you consider Aversa to be really good, then you can also consider Gunthra to also be really good. She debuffs just as many stats as Aversa does, 3 to all stats versus 6 to a particular unit. It's not as consistent. I feel like Aversa is a little bit better because you hit both Panic and 3 to all stats and chills. But debuffing attack and speed is really easy and very important actually for going for Ether. When you go for Ether, debuffing something like attack and speed could make it really easy to just tank units while you go for those fountains. So I think Gunthra is a decent option merged up. And of course, because she provides wind blessings, buffing res is kind of good now. There's a lot of magical damage dealers in a mode like Ether Raids. So yeah, Gunthra is still a very good unit. And if you haven't merged her up, she could definitely be increasing in value lately. Also, if they do release the dual cavalry skills soon, which, I mean, we have a legendary like new heroes banner coming soon, you never know. Armor dual skills and cavalry dual skills could make her a lot better in something like Arena. So, Green has a lot of new heroes that do happen. When they release new heroes and seasonals, it always tends to be so many. And it's been a while, a really long time, and honestly, Olwen has not shown up yet. So there she is. But hold on for a second. Cavalry are pretty good now because of Ether Raids. And there's something that makes Olwen really good. It's the fact that her Blade Tome doesn't have a penalty on cooldown reduction, so she can use some really good skills like Glimmer with Desperation and not have to suffer it being a 3-charge special. She could even use 4-charge Dragon Fang with like heavy blades and really get some good value that other green calves can't even compare in the damage output. So Olwen is going to be a pretty good unit, similar to Gunthra, but Gunthra is more supportive, where Olwen is just a glass cannon, super huge damage dealer. So yeah, I don't think she's too good for fodder. I've seen her quite a few times, but I gotta respect the unit for being pretty good. Okay, and there's our beautiful looking guy that can swim, unlike Xander. He's pretty good for fodder due to Beach Banner being decent and Defense Feint, I believe. So these are decent skills. Defense Feint is a little bit more consistent than something like Chill Defense. You can kind of plan that out. Other than that, Innis is interesting because he's very fast as a green flyer, which is rare. The only one that really compares to him would be like Camilla, but Camilla suffers in other areas, not being as tanky and not having as good of an attack stat. Personally, if you were to build a green flyer, it would probably be Camilla, but his fodder is decent at least, and that kind of rounds out the green options. Okay, so for some reason, F. Grima was confirmed in colorless. I couldn't tell you why, because most of us thought that we'd finally get a new colorless hero, and honestly, I'm kind of doubting it, because if F. Grima got confirmed, then we probably won't get a new colorless hero. But if they really are trying to make a summon at all in colorless, they really got to push up the quality here. And that's why I'm honestly just going to go for the same options I went as last time, which are Takumi and Noir. They need to do this, because Innis and Jenny aren't going to push it. And even though Takumi hasn't had his second rerun here on these legendary banners, I feel like he probably will before they release Hoshiden Xander as a just a straight up better option when it comes to fodder. Hoshiden Xander has a wave skill, QR3, and close counter all built in, plus he has a really good dagger. Before they start releasing the Hoshiden dagger units, and dancers for the most part, they really should make these units stand out. And Takumi is some of the best you can get in colorless. Close counter has increased in value due to ether raids being more important. You don't necessarily have to use dual skills. You can use ranged units, so close counter fodder is good. We haven't seen Takumi in months. I haven't seen a banner for him, so I expect maybe this is the time for Legendary Banner to happen. Now, Noir is kind of an interesting thing here to show up, but has to eventually, because so if Makoto does get demoted, and we don't know yet, Infantry Rush will become a lot more common. At least like in the permanent pool, that's definitely a factor here. But Coco Bow is not a bad one either as a bow option. So we could definitely see, you know, kind of like the final hurrah of colorless being here before they really start pushing some better options. Honestly, with Lind also coming up, colorless is going to have some duds once in a while. But yeah, I mean, once these guys start coming, like Xander, Veronica, and even Nina to an extent, because Shining Bow is really good, that's when it's going to really explode in terms of quality. And I expect that to maybe be once 3.0 hits, because Veronica is really good and probably one of the best options once colorless happens. And Hoshida and Xander as fodder can't be beaten. So this pretty much concludes my Legendary Banner predictions today. I want to definitely end off the note by saying that I'm less confident in this one than I have been previously. So quick rundown: Ryoma, Celica, Katarina, Lucina, Delthea or Ninian, Cordelia, Cordelia, Gunthra, Olwen, Innis, Grima, Takumi, and Noir. If I was to truly guess where a new legendary hero would be placed, I would guess it would be red or blue, and probably subbing out someone like Delthea and Katarina. And then the other choices I would feel more confident in. As I said, something like Celica, it's going to be likely there if they're going to. Celica would be here if 3.0 really does entail some sort of skill refines or skill options being there as a way to push the skill before that feature gets released. Anyways, let me know in the comments below what you think is coming up. If you can still see some patterns that I may have missed, I'll definitely look at your comments below and take a look. Yeah, are you excited for this mystery as I am? Let me know. Give it a like if you like the video, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.